This here is a Patreon review request. A movie that I'd never seen before. Came out 2006 and my Patreon member Burke, he was like, hey, can you review Children of Men? It's one of my favorites. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. 2006, Clive Owens. Okay, let's Michael Caine, one of my favorite actors. Let's go ahead and check it out. And boy, let me tell you, this movie is great. And on this episode of Movie Breakdowns, I'm gonna review Children of Men from 2006. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. What's Movie Breakdowns? A movie review series. We look at new and old movies, give a grade, a plus and minuses do count. And this movie you want me to do, let me know. Please put in the comment section below. Get to as best I can. I also have a Patreon, Patreon/Ali Zakka. And for $2 a month, you get to cut in front of everybody, get your review out on Facebook. Right before it comes out on Facebook and YouTube. Get on Patreon immediately because I do it. I drop everything I do because you're paying for my services. Also get trade reactions, trade reviews, much more content. Now, let's go and get into today's episode, 2006, Children of Men. Now, what is this movie about? And before I jump into that, this is a spoiler review, guys. So if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it and come back to it. But if you have, this is what this movie is about. It's about a guy named Theo who has to give this woman named Key to a safe haven on the ocean. That simple. He has to escort her from one spot to another. Now, why is this so important? Because in the year 2027, people are infertile. Women can have kids. There have been no baby born for 18 years. But Key is the first woman to be pregnant in 18 years. Crazy. And people are losing their mind because people can't have babies. People are attacking people, governments are shutting down, and the country, United Kingdom, is pretty much made their place, because they're the last standing, one of the few standing governments, a safe haven for those who are within their country. And anybody else who's not within the country, you can't get in, you're getting kicked out. And people are trying to get into Britain. However, they believe that this girl named Key shows this world, to the baby, to the world, that it will end the war. And people want to make it a political thing, and people don't want to make it a political thing. But Theo doesn't give a crap about that. He just want to get this girl to the place that's on this ocean, that's a safe haven, get her to the coast, and get her to a safe haven where who knows what's going to happen, but he want to make sure she gets there safely. And this movie was great. I loved it. I love this movie. I watched it, first time I ever seen it, and I watched it, and at first I was kind of like, all right, cool. It seems like a guy who's doesn't really has an ordinary life, doesn't really enjoy what he's doing. He's kind of just moseying along, and then his life turns for the worse, or turns for the best, whatever the case may be, when his ex-wife comes back into the picture, and he's like, okay, well, I have a chance to reconnect something here with my wife. We stopped talking to each other when our son died, but this could be the moment. And 30 minutes into it, stuff turns sideways. There's a car scene where they are trying to escape a bunch of refugees who are coming after them in a car, and all you see is everything from inside the car. You don't see the outside of it. You don't see the people running from the different angles. You see them coming at you in the car, and it's a pretty interesting shot. Like, you're seeing everything from Theo's perspective in that car scene. Like, he is in the back seat, and you're watching Chiwetel Ejiofor, who appeared in this movie for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like, if Chiwetel's in this movie, this is about to be a good movie. Julianne Moore are in the front seat, and Theo, Key, and another lady named Marion, I believe her name was, they're in the back seat, and you're seeing them trying to escape everything. It is a very intense scene within the first 30 minutes of the movie. It was done so well, directed so well, camera angles placed amazingly. Like, the car hood gets caught on fire at one point, and you see the flames from inside the car. I don't know, it was just awesome to me. Freaking loved it. Like, besides the story, the whole directing of this movie, and there's certain scenes, for example, there's a hallway scene where this guy is trying to take Theo and Key in for a reward, and Theo and Key and this other lady fights the guy off. And they're down the hallway and they're trying to get out this door, and the door's kind of jammed tight, so they're forcing their way through the door, and the dude gets up and the camera cuts from Theo, who was trying to yank the door open, get Key out the door, and like Theo looked down the hallway and you see the guy crawling, and then cuts back to Key and Theo trying to get out, and then Theo looks back again and the guy's standing up with a gun. You're like, oh my gosh, anxiety. Like the movie was so tense at times, but was done so well. I truly enjoyed this movie. Like, I truly enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it. I can't tell you like another movie I've seen in a while where I was just like, oh my gosh, maybe. I guess No Way Home. I saw No Way Home, but like this movie, and in fact, I never heard of it until my Patreon member Burke, shout out, thank you for requesting this, because I truly enjoyed this movie. I really did, and it went from such a movie where Theo looked like he's about to have everything back, he's about to have his wife back, and all these things, to a movie where she's dead, and you have to watch Theo break down, and Clive does a good job of showing that emotion and just breaking down and get like, all right, gotta get myself together and gotta get back out there. And then he loses another friend of his, and he's saddened by it, and you see in his face, but he's also trying to stay strong for Key and Marion, and then when towards the end of the movie where he's like just exhausted and he can see it. And I'm not gonna tell you how his character ends, but it's definitely, I think Clive did some of the best work. To be honest, I've seen him in 2 movies, but as far as acting goes and other movies I've seen other actors in, I think Clive did some great work in this movie. Like, good gracious, it was good. The bad thing I have to say about this movie, there's a scene where, to me, it was just a little slow. It makes sense. You have to slow it down a little bit, but at the same time, in the scene, Key was having contractions and she's had to breathe, and Marion's like, so this is unusual. But they show like this bus, they take some time to get from one place to another, and I was like, okay, we could all see that she might be giving birth here. Why show the bus and have it drag out the bus ride? Like, I don't really need the bus ride. We just need to get to point A to point B. And to me, that's like a nitpick that I had. But other than that, like, I personally don't think anybody else would be bothered by it. I was just bothered by it, but that's my only nitpick. It's just the bus scene right there where they're just going from one bus to another. Like, okay, we see that. I guess it was tension building, because to be honest, I'm just like, all right, we need to get to the next scene. We need to figure out what's going to happen, because eventually she's going to give birth. Like, that was just my thought process watching it. She's going to give birth. Like, duh. But maybe because I already expected that, that bus scene really took its time for me. And it was maybe about 5 minutes, maybe less than that. I don't know. It just seemed a little long there, and I was like, okay, we're settling down. So when we get to the next moment, which is just pure action, and then there's a birth of a child, and you're like, oh my gosh, and then it's just complete chaos that happens. And speaking of chaos, and one cool thing about this movie, because nobody has heard a baby cry in 18 years, so the government was coming in, and this army was coming to clear out this refugee camp, clear it out, and this terrorist group called the Fishes, they was coming in to capture Key, because they believe the baby's the key. Key, the baby, was the key to ending the war, and also using her, like, if the government sees that the firstborn baby in 18 years is a refugee baby, then they'll have to let us in. They have to accept us as humans, not treat us like animals. And you get to see what the refugee camps look like, and it is definitely not a good sight. It is horrible. but the refugees and the terrorist group was fighting the government, and this giant building that Clive and Key are trapped in, they get out thanks to the baby crying. And Key is, the actress that played Key is so good because she, even in times of danger, is still sarcastic. She was like, Clive, like, is the baby okay? Like, she's annoyed. But the baby was crying and everybody stopped. The refugees looked at her and was like, oh my gosh, the baby voice. And the terrorist group looked at her and was like, oh my gosh, it's baby's voice. And then the army came in, they ceased fire because the one similar of hope for humanity is right here in this war ground. And everybody knows that if this baby dies, it could be the end for humanity, all we know. But if this baby alive, we have a chance to move forward. And as far as why women became infertile and why people can't have kids, nobody knows. Like, it just happens. And some people in the movie think it's an act of God. Some people in the movie just science. Nobody really knows why people will stop having kids. Nobody really knows. And the fact that this woman was able to produce a baby in a time when nobody can have kids, it was like a miracle to everybody. Like, even Theo himself couldn't believe it. He was like, this is a miracle. And what gets me about this movie is that Key doesn't even know who the husband is. She was like, I was just messing around. It could be anybody, which is like, wow. Because like, yeah, I guess if nobody could have kids, then what's the, point of condoms? Just get wild, get crazy. Granted, safe sex, guys, like, but at the same time, that thought of it is like, I guess so. Like, nobody worry about getting pregnant. Like, why not? Which is funny. I like how the movie threw that in there. Like, but this movie's great. It's a great movie. I loved it. I love the directing, the scenes, the setup, the time span of going from different places and location, going from like the base camp, one of the base parts of the rebel group, and then going into a refugee camp so you can see what people are going through, but also you get the experience from Clive living in England, living in London, and you get to see what like normal day life is for people and people on the streets protesting. There's also a scene where there's a zebra and like exotic animals roaming around, and it threw me off, but it's also interesting to see the world building and see the world, how the world is built, and see how people are living their lives in 2027 when you can't have kids anymore, so people are just doing whatever they want. It is a very, very good movie. Like, I love this movie. And matter of fact, the last kid, like I said, was 18 years old. So pretty much there's no kids on this planet anymore. Schools. They even show a school where the school itself is vacant. Yeah, how eerie that is. 18 years. It's a freaking great movie. It's a great movie. I'm raving about it. It's a great movie. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the box office, writers, directors, and actors and actresses. Box office, this movie had a budget estimate of $76 million. It grossed worldwide $70,500,000 plus. So I wish this movie made more money. It's kind of sad it didn't make that much. This movie is an hour and 49 minutes runtime, and the director of this movie is Alfonso Cuarón. Hope I pronounced your name right. I feel like, I don't know what other movies Alfonso done, but Alfonso did a great job in this movie, giving like this thriller kind of vibe to this movie. This movie is considered a action drama sci-fi movie. And there were scenes in this movie that really made me feel like I was watching a horror movie. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, like, the anticipation of them trying to get to a location, all of a sudden just stopped out of nowhere. Not like an action movie where, like, you never felt like they was in danger. Like, in an action movie you watch, sometimes watch, you don't feel like characters are in danger. You're like, oh, this person get over this person overcome. In this movie, I felt like the characters were in danger, and I didn't know what to expect and how to get out of certain situations, and like that tension of them like getting hunted down certain scenes and people running towards the car. Great. The writers is Alfonso Cuarón. He's a screenplay writer. Timothy Sexton, screenplay, and then David Arterada also worked on screenplay. And this is based on an actual book by P.D. James, 1992's novel The Children of Men. So this movie is also based off of a book, which makes perfect sense when you have something already kind of laid out for you and all you gotta do is really adapt it and make it more live action, like phenomenal. And then as far as the cast go, which I think the cast did amazing. Like, this cast is great. Clive Owens, who played Theo, great job. Like I said, he had scenes where he had to break down and collapse and cry. He also had scenes where he had to be like assure himself and figure out what's going on. Scenes where he didn't care and feel lethargic. I thought he was great. I thought Clive was great. Julianne Moore, who played Julian, she did a good job. She would tell Ejiofor, any movie I watch this man in, he brings intensity like no other. Like, this dude he played Luke in this movie was so intense and so, like, she would tell was so good in this movie. He made you feel like he could be a good guy and on your side at the same time. He can blow your head off and not care about you. Like, this dude is just a great actor. Even in the movie himself, with being deceptive, like, Chiwetel Ejiofor just brings it. There's only one scene though that threw me off at the end where the baby is revealed to be a girl, and Theo tells Luke, like, it's a girl, Luke. And Chiwetel just looks, I'm not sure if it's improv or not, but he just looks at the camera and he goes, I had a sister. And I was like, what? Because he literally didn't do it. Like, he was going to shoot and he stopped and he was like, I had a sister. And I was like, did he forget what he was going to say? I don't know. It just seemed, maybe it wasn't a book. It just seemed out of place for me. Michael Caine played Jasper. Michael Caine is a delight. This dude is a delight. He played like this old hippie kind of dude. He was a treasure on screen. Like, anytime he was on it, he brightened the movie up, and I wish there was more of him in this movie. Like, he was great. And Claire Hope Ashby, who played Key, I thought she did a good job. She was very charismatic, very sarcastic at times. Like, you got behind her when as a character, you believed in the character. You was like, man, Key's like just a regular down to earth girl who was like, yeah, I have a baby inside of me and here we go. And she was super sarcastic about it and just joking. She also lit up the screen when Clyde himself, or Theo himself, was getting down in dumps. Like, Key brought light to the movie, and it was almost like the opposite. Like, she was super optimistic while Clyde was like, or Theo was like, yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going on. We're just, okay. And Key was like, hey, I was told to trust you. I'm giving you my trust. And Theo's like, all right, this is something I have to do here. And I don't remember how old Key is, but Clive kind of looked at her, or Theo kind of took her on as a daughter almost. He kind of like was kind of like there with her as a daughter. I know they had a kid that died in 2008 in the movie, Theo and Julian. And I wonder if their kid would have been as old as Key is in this movie at this time. I don't remember what the exact age of the baby was when he died, but that's something to think about, because really I've kind of got the father-daughter connection between Theo and Key. And then last but not least, Pam Ferris, who played Marion, I thought she did a great job as well. And she was like one of the main pieces of the movie with Theo and Key. The cast is great. This movie is great. It's a great movie. It really is. Like, it really is. Any other thoughts? The music in this movie is great. The music really does hit you, and you hear certain soundtracks play in certain orchestras and just OSP, like the original soundtrack for this movie, I thought was solid. I thought it was good, and it really plays into it. Great. What else? I'm just keep raving about this movie. It's just a great movie. It's like, this movie you should watch. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Like, the way I'm explaining this movie does not give this movie justice. Go watch this movie. come back and thank me later. And thank you, Burke, for giving me this movie to rewatch. Is this a Friday night movie? Yes, it's a Friday night movie. Watch with your friends. This movie is rated R, so unless you're watching with adults, don't watch it with kids because it's cussing in here. It's bloody. The war scene is very graphic. Like it's not a good. It's a rated R movie. Put it that way. It's a rated R movie. It's not a good movie to really watch with kids. You gotta watch with other adults. But it is definitely worth the watch. And grading time. I'm gonna grade Children of Men from 2006 an A+. This movie gets an A+ for me. It is a phenomenal movie. Like, it is done so well. Like, I was gonna give it an A, and the reason why I felt like the little scene between on the bus a little long and dragged out, but this movie, it's an hour and 50 minutes, and 30 minutes into it, it really takes off. Like, you've sensed the danger, because it really builds up. It's only 30 minutes. It builds up into it, and the first 30 minutes don't really drag out because exposition is giving out the world is what's going on, and you see how people are living their life, the world building, the story building. Talk about story building, that first 30 minutes of the movie really builds it out. And then, once that flaming car comes into scene and that car scene happens, it takes another turn. This movie really does. Like, whew, you really don't see the pregnant lady until what, 45 minutes into the movie? Like it's great. This movie's great. Solid. Also, I do like the fact that it kept showing that animals was attracted to Theo, and I'm not sure this was an actual thing, but I think animals can sense a genuine great presence in somebody, and having animals be like the thing to show like, hey, Theo's a good person. Yeah, he's moping around life and just getting by, but he's not a bad dude. And I think that having the animals like kind of warm up to him all the time and say like, hey, you can let your guard down. He's not bringing any harmful intent. I thought it was solid. I thought it was a solid piece. Like, there's a scene where he's listening to everybody talk about the fate of Key, and this kitten is like attached itself to his legs, and he's like, what are you doing? Get off my leg. Anyway, this movie is an A+ for me. I enjoyed this movie. It's great. Great story, great directing, great set up pieces. There's moments in the movie I jumped. There's movies I felt anxiety. I was like scared for characters. Like this, some great writing, just top tier. Like, and it's based off a book, so it should be top tier. But it's phenomenal. I loved it. Loved it. If you've seen Children of Men, what did you think? Please put in the comment section below. Other than that, see you guys next episode of Movie Breakdowns. And keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode of Movie Breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and keep being awesome.